If you ever feel like, you're this close to giving up, tell yourself that, look, you decided to do this, you must finish what you started.
Hello, everyone. This is Dana from Dev Device. We have another episode of the Dev Device podcast coming up with Mr. Darshan. Welcome, Mr. Darshan.
Hello, Dano. Nice to get in touch with you.
Yes, same here, man. You are the founder of Absolute Data Consultancy. Tell me
Exactly.
about Absolute Data Consultancy. It's a very sophisticated name. Where does it come from, man?
Funny thing you asked that question. Now, not many people know this, but since you had invited me upon this podcast, I'm going to tell the truth now about Absolute Data Consultancy.
There you go.
So, me and the boys were hanging out this time over a couple of pints, and they always knew that I was always dealing with data, doing trainings on data and stuff like that. And I have this tendency of always using the word absolutely at all times whenever when they're telling me something. So one of my buddies were talking to me about something he was having, a work problem that he was having. And I was listening very intensively to him, and I kept saying, absolutely, I hear you. Absolutely, I hear you. And 3 pints in later, I was asking everyone in the table, I opened up the question to everyone at the table, guys, what do you think about me? What should I name my company? Like, what should I go with? And one of the guys just looked at me and said, I think you should have it as absolute data, because you deal with data, you use absolutely, go with absolute data. Surprisingly enough, got back home, thought about it for 5 minutes, went on with it. And that's how you get the name Absolute Data Consultancy.
See, that's the power of having good friends. Yeah, they give you just the right hints, and now you're going with Absolute Data Consultancy.
Yeah, that's but cool. No one until today knew the real story behind Absolute Data Consultancy.
See, that is the secret sauce we have here on the podcast. We discover the truth behind people. Yeah, the secrets. Oh man, we're gonna dig much more deeper than that. One more fun fact we just found out just before we started this podcast, that we are actually neighbors. I mean, I could.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, yes, we are actually staying like 500 meters from each other, and we could have done this in person. So, I mean, this has never happened to me before. I mean, normally I speak with people who are in different time zones and continents and all that. But yeah, so that is fun fact. So the internet connection should be.
Yeah, it's fun that you mentioned that, Dano, because surprisingly enough, today, had it not been today of all days, I don't know why I wasn't feeling too well. So I decided that I'm going to work from home. I told some of my guys that, look, I'll come in the office tomorrow. I'll work from home today. And when you mentioned that, where are you from, Darshan? I said Kuala Lumpur. And then I asked you, have you been? And when you said, yes, I'm in literally next door to you. Had I known this yesterday, I would have been next to you right now.
See, yeah, that would have been fun, but we can still do that, man. It's still an option.
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Sometime in the future.
Now we know, man. Yeah, so I would love to learn a bit more about your company, what you're doing in your business today. This big data is a big word. I saw your website. You're doing a lot of things with AI as well. So let our audience know a bit. What is your business about?
Sure. Now, I think we all know that we live at a moment right now in the world where everything is going into data. You're talking about cyber security, data security, data management, and all this stuff, right? Now, for the longest time ever, in the past 10 years, I would say, ever since I started my career upon graduation, I've always been very intrigued with information. Like, for me, I felt information is key to success. You can't do anything in life without any information. And information then translated to data as the years went by. So having said that, looking at data, having numbers, all this sort of information at hand, I always wondered, what do you do with it? Like, what do every single person do with it? Like, if I would ask you, Dano, like, you've met numerous different people on your podcast, right? What do you do with these individuals after the podcast? Like, is there anything that you have specifically done with them? And all these questions always keep running in my head. And so that got me peaked into analyzing these data. And when I found out that there are various forms and platforms to analyze it, many people are not even aware that you can do analysis of data in a platform that everyone has access to, like Excel, Microsoft Excel. We always just thought Microsoft Excel is just one of those things where you put up a file, you type it out, you print it out, and send it to your bosses, right? But that's not the case. So because of that, what I ended up doing was I started my career in the pharmaceutical industry upon graduation. And in the pharmaceutical industry, we deal with a lot of numbers, as you know, sales, commissions and whatnot, and all this cost, gross sales and all that. So from that is where I started then gathering data. I started off from being a sales representative in the pharmaceutical industry, moving myself up into the analytical aspect of identifying which part is lucrative for the company and stuff like that. From there, that's when I decided that I'm going to be talking a lot more about data and start doing trainings on data. And that's how, in the gist, that's how the whole thing started off for me.
Cool. And so that is what you're doing today. So today you're providing
and
this
today
as a
that is
service.
translated to me, correct. And today that's translated to me training individuals of corporate companies on how to deal with data, because the common problem that you see today is that a lot of them have data, but they don't know what to do with it, or they don't know how to analyze the data. So that's where I come in and help them out.
How would you define the term big data? How is big data different from data?
Okay, now this is the difference, I would say, in a layman term, right?
Yeah.
Data is information that you can view and you can understand. Big data is taking that information, analyzing it in various ways, and coming up with a decision or perhaps a call to action that can be done with the particular organization or the particular individual, whatever you want to do with, who it may be applicable to.
That is so, yeah. And the big problem I see with data is it doesn't do anything if you just look at it, if you don't make it actionable, if you don't draw conclusions out of the data, then it's just a waste of hard disk space. But
exactly.
If you work with it like mindfully and create a decision process, like what I'm going to do with it, then it starts to be valuable. And this is exactly what you guys do, I guess. So you help people to put data to use and make it useful for decision making. And I think that's a very crucial part in many companies. Yeah, man, that sounds really exciting. And I would love to know even more about it. But since this podcast is about your life story, we have to take a little detour here and we have to travel back in time a little bit. And I already warned you about this. So we're going to meet 10-year-old Darshan.
Oh my God, I've got to tap in the way back in.
Come on, it's not so long ago. I mean, maybe 10 years, maybe 15.
10-year-old Darshan is a long way ago, Dano. 10-year-old Darshan is a long way ago. I hardly remember what I put on 3 days ago.
Never mind. Let's keep this private. How many years exactly ago this is, but how many ever years it is. Let's meet 10-year-old Darshan. Where was he? What was he doing?
Let's see. 10-year-old Darshan was in school in a secondary government school here in Malaysia, and he was very mischievous. Was never the kind of person who liked studying. Opening his books and doing homework was considered an ordeal for him. Never liked reading. Every time I had to open up a book to read, I have my mom standing right next to me with a cane, having to ask me, "Are you reading? Are you reading?"
For real?
Oh yeah. Have you not met Asians, Dano? Asians don't. We deal with children differently back then.
Oh yeah. I hear. I mean, my dad used to use his belt. That's how he would whack me. But yeah, so
there you go.
We had a different culture, but here it's more about the cane. Yeah, it's also
yes, that's right.
I guess.
And I used to hide those canes on weekly basis, when she leaves the house, I'll hide the canes behind some, a big rack or cabinet or something, and then she'll keep finding for it. She'll never find it. And I think about 15 years later, I remember after I moved out, and 15 years later, she had a big spring cleaning with the house and stuff. She found about 20 canes behind this cabinet that was never moved. So to give you an idea of
Oh my
what
God.
10-year-old Darshan was capable of, there you go.
So your first accomplishment was to create a cane collection, man. Yeah, that is
That's right.
amazing. Yeah, yeah. So you set up a cane collection for your mom, which then became very precious, down the road. Yeah. Okay, so you were not a big book guy, so big data was not exactly like at the top of your head at
I did
those
not
days.
know anything about big data. I
Yeah.
was always a person who was intrigued with videos, which means that
Oh.
reading was never my forte, I would say, at that point.
Mm.
And I enjoyed learning or watching videos that, that would benefit me more than trying to read.
Mm.
So, like, for
Mm.
example, if I go even further back in time, when I was 6 or 7 years old, my mother, I don't know if you know about this. Have you heard of this book series called Peter and Jane?
Not sure, not sure. Yeah,
Okay.
no.
Well, they were big. Back then they were really big. And it's a collection of these books that
Ah,
allows children to start reading or writing or speaking.
ah.
So my
Mm.
mother used to buy me these collections of Peter and Jane books, and she'd read it to me every night before going to bed. Me being me, I think I was 7 or 8 years old. I can't be sure, but every time I opened the book and I started reading, I just doze off.
Yeah, it's a perfect sleeping pill. Yeah, same here.
Exactly. And since that was happening, and we didn't have YouTube back then, we didn't have all those, the internet was not as it is today. So
Hmm.
my mom ended up getting the ones with the video, the one with the tape recording, the VHS type.
Oh, oh.
So she'd watch, and I'll watch the video, and I learn better that way. So I think what
Mm.
I'm trying to say is that at 10 years old, I begin to realize that I'm more of a person who prefers interaction than
Mm.
just reading off of things.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, of course, that's a preference, and that's completely legit. I mean, not everybody likes to read. For example, I love to listen to books.
Right.
So audiobooks is like the way for me to go. But reading, the process of reading, I find it tedious. And
Yeah.
since we look at the screen the whole day, and then if I go back and then I start reading again, I feel like, no, man, there's no way I can
Yeah.
read.
But
I
it's a
can
funny thing
listen.
that I say that now, because today, for the past 10 years, my entire career is built on reading data, understanding data,
Mm,
and comprehending what is the data all about. And
okay.
it's funny that the
Yeah,
10,
yeah,
10
yeah.
year old me was so different from
Mm.
who I am today.
So how did that happen? So the 10-year-old Darshan, he didn't like to read, but he still went to school. He finished school, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I finished
Yeah.
school, and I remember the turning point for me was when I turned 18 years old.
Mm,
So at 17, I finished school here in Malaysia. And
mm,
then at 18 years old, I decided that, I was in college. I did 1 year of college, and then I
mm,
was going to go into my undergraduate program. And what I did was I had to sit down. I talked to myself for hours on a daily basis. And I said that, look, I'm not happy going and sitting down and studying and, figuring out what's life going to be 5 years or 4 years from today after I graduate. I wanted it now, today. So I told my parents that I want to go and work. I want to work. I want to experience what's real life like out there, and I want
mhm,
to be able to know how to play around with my money. What do I do with tax and all this kind of stuff? So I decided that I'm going to continue my studies when I decide I want to do it. So I actually started off working, going through the process. And what I realized was that, as I mentioned, that was my tipping point. As I started working with companies, small companies, nothing big, because I didn't have my degree yet, and I was a young kid. What I realized was many of the bosses that I worked for always had this thing where they kept asking questions like, what are we doing next? How do we improve? What are we doing next? And how do we improve? And I kept wondering, like, if you are the owner of the company, how could you not know what to do next? Shouldn't you be the one telling us what to do next?
uh-huh.
instead of asking us. So at that age, I
Okay.
remember at 18 years old, I felt like, look, if everyone's asking this question, there must be an individual out there who can answer these questions, and what are the information that he requires for him to answer these questions. And that's where I started looking into data. And then I also realized that without a degree in Malaysia, you're not going to get very far in your career. So
Mm.
I saved up a little bit more. I didn't want my parents to pay for my undergraduate program and stuff like that. I saved up. I went to uni. I did after hours school, got my degree, and yeah, and that's how it all started. And that's when I started joining the pharmaceutical industry, and data from then ever since was conceived.
And you graduated in what subject?
I graduated in business management,
Business
but
management.
under the majoring in data
Oh,
management.
wow. So isn't that amazing? So you did your little market research, by taking jobs, and you gathered information from the real work environment, and this gave you a hint like what is a problem you would like to solve, and then you actually went back to uni and studied the subject, and then you came back with your degree, and then you went in full force, I guess.
Yeah, so like I mean, now that you mentioned market research, I never thought of it that way. But at that point, it felt like I was just doing the right thing. But
Yeah.
like I like the fact that you said market research, because today I've had my friends, I've had my family members always ask me this question: do you regret not doing your degree or not studying when you were supposed to study? I always tell them, no, not at all. If I had not done what I did, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I had the very same notion. When I came out of school, I mean,
Hmm.
school in Germany lasted for 13 years. And to
Wow.
me, it was a very, very, very long time. And I could
Yeah.
not understand anyone who would,
Hmm.
after these 13 years, go back to college and sit down in a classroom again for another. So I think we have the same idea here that we need to experience the real work life. We need
Oh
to
yeah.
just put our toes in the water and understand what's going on. I mean, we never
Correct.
experienced work. I mean, we're 19 years old and we haven't worked for a single day, like really.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
that was also my intention. I just wanted to go and work whatever, and
Yeah.
then gather some some experience, and then see what to do next. But yeah,
Correct.
that's an amazing story, and I really admire how you had this persistence and this focus already at this young age, and how you kind of made it all the way through. So then you went into corporate. You worked as a sales person for pharmaceutical industry,
Yep. Because
and then you were
that's another funny story as well.
yeah,
When I
bring
when
it
I
on.
went in, when I went in for the interview, and I told the guy who interviewed me, I still remember his name till this very day. His name was Erwin, and Erwin asked me, "What is your major in? What is data management? What do you do for data management? We're a pharmaceutical company. What are you applying for? We only have openings for sales." And I said, yes, I'm well aware of what the opening is for, and I am applying for the sales job, but I want to utilize what the knowledge that I have in this sales job, also this opening that you provide, in order to see if I'm able to implement what I've learned, and if that makes a change in the way that I make the sales. And he was so taken back by it, he didn't know how to respond to me. And he said, I have never had an interviewee tell me this before, but okay, I'll give you a go. And
All
that's how I
right.
got the job. I got the job in like 2 days. I think I got the phone call, and Erwin said, okay, Darshan, come in the office tomorrow. Let's see what we can do.
Okay. So you started your sales career with a data-driven approach, which makes a lot of sense. And I think you kind of excelled, and and then you were, next step you went into this analytical part
Correct, correct,
of
correct.
the company,
After the
and
sales
then
division, what ended up happening was that I came up with a lot of templates. I came up with a lot of ways that we can manage the data that's being collected by the other sales representatives. And what are the regions that we should target within Malaysia? What are the sales numbers, the forecasting and stuff like that. So that's when the general manager then told me that, okay, Darshan, you're more useful to us being in the office than being outside trying to do the sales. So that's when they shifted me over from sales to the, so to say, the business development part of the company.
Yeah, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's very good. And you, so until today, you're still working in corporate, or are you?
No,
Have you?
I've not worked in corporate for the past 9 years now, if I'm not
Wow.
mistaken. Yeah,
Okay,
because
so you're definitely more than 20 years old. Yeah,
yeah,
give
absolutely.
us a clue. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'll be open about it. I'm 30. I'm turning 34.
Cool. Man,
I
you
may
look
not
at
look it. I
33.
may not look it. A lot of them always confuse me for 44. But
Now, come on.
yeah, there you go.
No, no, man. I think you're looking good. You're looking very good. And whatever your age is, to me, age is just a number. I think,
Correct.
I mean, people can have so many different ages, but what's going on in their
Oh
life,
yeah.
in their head, in their health can be
Correct.
so different at any time. So to me, age is really
Yep. Yep.
just a number. But now you've been for 9 years, you have been out of corporate and now you are an entrepreneur. Is that correct to say?
Yes, that's right. I've been training full time. I've got my own training company, which is Absolute Data Consultancy, and we engage with a lot of corporate clients of various industry, because the fun thing about data analytics is that it's not specific to a industry. It can be used across all forms of industry, even from entertainment all the way up to procurement, for that fact. Data analytics can be utilized in all these industries. So yeah, 9 years been going, companies doing well. With a lot of them have come to me with different forms of, can we do this, can we do that? Yep. So it's been 9 years.
Fantastic. Wow. So you made all the way from going to college, entering the corporate world, coming out of it, creating your own company, and now you're serving and you're solving the same problem that you were solving as an employee. Now you're doing it as an agency or
Yeah, but
as a company.
trust me, Dano, it was not an easy thing at all. Because can you imagine 9 years ago how I was young, and imagine walking up to a 56-year-old business owner and telling him that, look, give me some money, hand me some money, and I'll tell you how to improve your business. The rejections that I got, the amount of shame they put me through. Like, how can you, a 20-something, tell me how to run a
Who
company and
are
stuff?
you? Tell me.
Yeah, exactly. So it
Oh,
was it was it was an uphill journey, I must say.
uh-huh. And the even more I admire your courage that it must have taken to just go out there and to leave the safety of the corporate world and start your own stuff. And yes,
Yeah,
I think that's one of the first things we all experience as an entrepreneur.
yeah,
People are not waiting for us with open arms.
correct.
It takes quite a few attempts to get to the right person with the right message,
Yeah,
to open a door,
yep,
to even
absolutely. I
let them
think you would know as well.
Yes, I have a bit of experience in that field. Yeah.
There you go.
So how did you make this work then? So after your rejections, what was your first success to get this going?
Okay. I would Let me start from what happened. So I was constantly getting rejected, rejected, rejected. I must credit my mother, especially, for always being there. She was sort of like a pillar for me at that point, because I began giving up at a certain point. I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to go back to the whole working life and do a 9 to 5, come back, monotonous thing. But she always told me, she said, no, don't give up, keep at it, keep at it. So the success story for me was that I came across an individual who happened to be working with, I'm not sure if you know, Tenaga Nasional. They're
Oh yeah,
Malaysia's electrical supply company, the biggest one here.
yeah.
And he knew a guy in TNB, in this company called TNB. They're huge in Malaysia.
Oh yeah.
And he told them about me, and he said, why not you come with me and let's go have a chat with this chap, and let's see what he wants exactly, because that chap was looking for some form of training with data, which I found very odd at in that year, it was not many people talk about data. I was one of the few people who were, on about data here and there. So we went and met him. We met him in a coffee shop, believe me or not. We met him in a little coffee shop. I remember I ordered my butter and toast. I had a coffee. He ordered a butter and toast. We had a coffee. Three of us sat down at a little round table by the side of the road, and we were talking. And he said that the company itself has got a academic division which they want to expand by teaching the staff on data analytics. And I so happened to have brought my laptop with me at that point, and I opened it up, showed him the details, told him what we can do, showed him an example of things that I conduct with the trainings and so on. And believe it or not, on the spot, he called up his superior and he said, "We've got someone. Let's get the paperwork done."
Wow.
And I was in shock. I did not believe that this was happening until I even came home. I showered. I couldn't sleep that night. I was still in shock. I said, "There's no way I would have got it. There's no way I would have got it." But he did give it to me. So that was a breakthrough for me. And ever since then, it has been history.
Wow. That is such an inspiring story. So there was a friend who brought you along. We can call this networking.
Yeah.
And then you sit down with a guy who happens to be just the right guy, and boom, the doors open. The doors of
And you
heaven.
want to know what's the funny story about that whole thing?
I want.
The friend that introduced me to this guy is the same guy who told me who gave me the idea for Absolute Data Consultancy.
Oh man, this must be a really good friend, man.
Oh yeah, we knew each other since 5 years old. We literally grew up as neighbors, and we went to school until today.
See, so I guess the power of networking, of having good friends, of being connected becomes very obvious, because we can easily knock on doors, like you mentioned earlier, and it can take a very long time, to meet the right stranger who will just happen to have an interest in what what we have to say and what we have to sell. But this one kind of really shortened the road for you and brought you to the right space at the right time. Amazing. And also, I think you can be considered a lucky boy. I will just say that, because
probably, I'm not going to deny it.
I mean, I guess we all can get lucky, but luck is, when just the right things happen.
Yeah. And I won't deny it. I must say, yes, hard work pays to a certain extent, but luck also is part of that formula.
Give your advice to someone who would like to start a business today, out of all your experience that you gathered. What kind of advice would you give someone who would like to start his entrepreneurial journey today?
Right. The first, I know it's very cliche for, when you ask this question to anybody out there, they're going to tell you that hard work, perseverance and stuff. Yes, that's of course going to be important, no doubt. But I think the most important thing that you must have as a person who wants to start a business is that you have to believe in yourself, even if it's the hardest time of whichever point in your life. If you ever feel like, you're this close to giving up, tell yourself that, look, you decided to do this, you must finish what you started. Never stop believing in yourself. Hard work, perseverance, all those stuff kicks in when you always believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no amount of hard work is going to pay out. No amount of luck is going to pay out, all this. So believe in yourself. And a second thing that I would add on to this is that being a data person, being a person who analyzes a lot of things, in today's day and time, if you want to be successful in whatever business that you go ahead with, social media is going to be the one that takes your business to the next level. So if you are going to be stuck with just trying to meet people, doing cold calls, trying to get in touch with individuals who probably you've not got in touch with for the past year, you've been trying and nothing happens, social media is going to be the one that helps you out. So combine that two, I think you'll be good.
That's fantastic advice, man. Yeah, I agree. We all hear a lot about perseverance and hard work, but believing in yourself and social media can be some magic ingredients that can make a big difference.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, my neighbor. It was a big pleasure to meet you, hear your story. I think maybe one day we can continue in person with this. But for now,
Absolutely.
I would just say thank you very much. And whatever links you would like me to share about your business, how people can get in touch with you, I will include it in the description under the video. And
Thank
then
you
we'll
very
see
much,
what
Dano.
happens.
Thank you. I would also like to thank you for inviting me on this podcast. It was a pleasure. I truly enjoyed myself. It was a nice little break for the day in the middle of the day from work and stuff. But appreciate you inviting me. I think I had fun talking about my life. I've never had this chat in a long time. And yeah, since maybe I'll catch you once in a while as we take a walk or something like that around the
Yes.
neighborhood.
Yes, it'll be a pleasure, man. All the
All right.
best. Until then,
Thank you, Dano.
bye
Same
bye.
same to you. Bye.